You don't have to clap every time you start. It's fine.
Hello, you.
Hey.
Good to see ya.
Good to see you.
It's funny because we do often sit opposite each other rather than, well, we do sit side by side on a sofa, but at the table, I like to be opposite you because my neck's too tight to like.
I thought it was because you like looking at my eyes.
Sure. You can believe that. So we have done a lot of like life together.
A lot.
Side by side. Some people find it weird how much we actually enjoy hanging out together. Remember when my sister was like, you brush your teeth together?
Yeah. At the same time. So
Not with like the same toothbrush or anything.
Head together.
Basically, we are so used to, from the day we met, other than our first year when we like dated back and forward between Northern Ireland and England.
Yep.
We have been so used to just going, oh, this is what we're getting up to. And so therefore we've shared it. So Navyblur is quite unique in that sense. Like, we're husband and wife. We started off as boyfriend, girlfriend, then an engaged couple, which, you know, made us really professional for those engagement sessions that we
actually knew what the feeling was like.
And then being married, we were like, yes, finally, we've joined the club. We feel super
Qualified.
Thank you. That's the word I was looking for.
You're welcome.
We felt super qualified in the game. And I think even more recently, we've kind of gone, gosh, now we have like 9 years of experience under our belt of juggling, being business owners and raising a family. Whether we're doing either well, that is to be discussed. Maybe we'll talk about that now.
Good, equally bad.
How do you think we're going, Xander?
Yes.
Out of 10. So I guess it would be fun to like talk about the earliest of days of Navyblur and like how it all began.
Well, I suppose the name is kind of the fun part.
Yeah,
because the name was something that we racked our brain for ages. We're sitting in a Chinese restaurant, and my brother said, "You should probably change the name because it's not very good." And I was like, "Okay," because we were using Xander Christine. Which actually didn't sound that bad.
Inspiration.
It felt a bit fashiony, so I kind of liked it. But no, we had to change it. It just felt a bit fashiony. Anyway, so we decided, well, let's change the name. But I knew from my brain, it couldn't just be any old name. It had to have a domain link to it. So there's no point thinking of a great name if the domain's already taken. So we just kept running we like the idea of colours and having some sort of thing and having maybe a story. So we think, oh, we met in Canada, so should we have maple leaf? So like, no, that's too much. It's too and we just sort of
we kept just merging we kept merging words together.
Yeah, and just kind of see, I don't know, it was really weird. It was a 3 day solid that we were sitting just thinking. We had names like Purple Turtle, that came up for a weird bit.
That would be so random.
It was so random. Do you know what? I kind of like it, but probably not now. So we had that. I remember seeing a swing outside and thinking, oh, it's kind of like there's motion in it, and it's blue, like blue swing. And then it came up like navy, and it was weird because when I was using the domain kind of registry thing to check, it came up one that actually had like navy, and I'm certain it said navy with like blur or navy motion. And I was like, oh, that's kind of something. And then ivory motion came up, and I'm so glad we didn't pick that because I was hot. We were stuck.
Ivory motion, you were really. I think that was your favorite for a while.
Which I don't even know why, because I hate it now.
Time changes.
So then we kind of got Navyblur, which is a random word, doesn't mean anything, and then ivory motion, and then really randomly before dinner we said, okay, Navyblur done, and then we bought the domain, and that was it.
Navyblur, and then I think we talked about this before, but your friend give us some really great graphics for the logo, because I think that's what, when we finally decided, no, we're not going to go down the meaningful route of picking a name.
Yeah.
We really loved this idea, and so many businesses have done this before, but like you create a word or a name out of words, and then it means that there's no other kind of meaning attached to them. So then we were like, wow, this is like a brand that we get to build. Like, this is 2 photographers, mainly weddings, I guess, at the time, but we were really excited to expand the brand and kind of go, well, we'll give it a meaning. The whole meaning will be that it will be Navyblur photography, like what we got to pull out of that.
I kind of like the idea. I like the fact that it was a made up word. I like Kodak. That's a made up word as well. It meant it could be anything. And the fact that, yes, we did photography, we didn't call it Navyblur Photography. Yeah. We called it Navyblur because I kind of liked it being like the company Virgin, where it could be anything. Yeah. We could go into different realms if we wanted to, which obviously we're doing video now as well. So if we called everything Navyblur Photography, it's harder. It's harder to kind of pivot. So I like the idea of Navyblur being its own entity. That
Yeah.
things can kind of come from that. Even things like podcasts, that kind of thing.
So, I mean, Navyblur was established in 2009. We were like these 19, 20-year-olds. We were so naive. And I think that actually, I love that. I love that's part of our story. I love that actually, yes, we both had like a passion for photography in the sense of we have cameras and we really enjoy taking photos of people and we loved the buzz of business. And what it was like to get emails in those days. Like we would have gladly written back at like midnight going, oh, we got an email, we need to get back to them right away. And designing websites and like, do you remember our first ever price list when we really like went after a website? And our friend and small group leader actually at the time, Ali, he designed us one that you could actually custom build. Like you could click it and the total would almost like
do you want your
up.
ceremony, obviously? Do you want like evening shots? Do you want dancing shots? And they would like tally it up like a little calculator.
Like we were just at this kind of like young, free and single like mentality where we were just like coming onto the scene going, we've seen how it's been done. And I think you specifically, your personality has always driven this thing of, I don't really care how wedding photographers either in the past or even now, like our community or competitors, whoever you want to call it. I don't care how they're doing it. Let's do it in our own way. And so we really like hammed up, I guess, the fact that we could travel, that we were able to go to England and you had friends that were getting married. And so as soon as we started to photograph their weddings, we would get the referrals of other like Brighton, London weddings. And we were like, this is so fun. Like, because Northern Ireland to Brighton, two very different places, like different kind of couples. And I think we just felt like doing engagement sessions with couples, like the creativity was like unlocked for us in those early days.
Yeah, and we also had no dependencies. Like we could just go at the drop of a hat on a plane somewhere anytime. If we want to shoot 3 weddings in a row, fine, shoot 3 weddings in a row. Who cares?
And even like engagement shoots, we were like, we can spend 4 hours with you guys walking up mountains or like going through the city.
Yeah, it's a shame we can't do it to that extent anymore because it is so much fun to do. It's just, it takes a lot of planning and preparing now with kids and babysitters and all that sort of stuff. So, and I suppose back then as well, we were in that balance of like, we were getting good, but we were still valued very cheaply. So it was that perfect balance where it's like we could just get loads and loads and loads of weddings.
Valued very cheaply.
Just valued very cheaply in compared to...
We were a lower price point, I guess. That's the...
Fine. We'll say
we're so cheap.
I didn't mean like that. When you're first starting though, you do start low.
Oh, yeah.
You start low. So you reach this sort of thing where you've got... You're very cheap. You are cheap because you're first starting, and you've got like no like work, and then you eventually kind of do this, and then it sort of pivots where your work is really, really, really good and outstanding because you're shooting so much, but your pricing has yet to kind of creep up and catch up. So you kind of reach this pivot where you're just like boom, and you're just getting so many inquiries and so many bookings because of that. So because we were cheaper back then, we had that balance where you feel like you're amazing and everything is great.
It's funny because as you were talking. And I know that we need to move out of the like in the beginning days because I feel like I could literally, we have so many great memories from like starting being young. Like there were so many good things.
Traveling all over the world.
But I was messaging one of our past couples the other day who was like, hey, hope you feel old. Like we're married 13 years like soon.
Wild.
And it made me laugh because I was like, I remember we weren't even married at that stage. And we were going to do an engagement shoot and we were so big on like engagement shoots just like being fun, being creative, and we were like, let's print out these big juicy like props on like big juicy lips that would be like props for their photo shoot. And like I remember printing them out before we were literally going to be meeting them 10 minutes later and putting them on sticks and that being part of their shoot. Like, and I know there was no reason for it, but in those days we were just so excited by what could be done. And I think that that's what, I suppose we had the naivety on our side, but also that kind of youthfulness and creativity where we were able to go, do you know what, we get to just try things. And I think I guess everything was changing from the most traditional, you chose your photographer from whoever was available within like your local area. Yeah. And things were just moving into like blogs were becoming a big thing where people started to go, hey, look what they're doing in America, like even just across the water. And we jumped on that. We were like, oh, if that's what can be done, like we're going to take our couples. And do you remember we used to do a lot of gifts? We used to like
love the
photograph.
gifts.
Your brain was always
I would
like...
still do gifts. I still would consider doing gifts again because they were so much
like
fun.
little moving images of them like going around
when they did,
each
like,
other.
they did like pencil jumps and they would spin
It
around.
was so
Oh,
fun.
I might bring that back. Genuinely might bring that back.
You should. But I mean, basically the early days, that's what like Navyblur was formed on. I think that's why we did get so much work so quickly, because we really wanted to show ourselves as like, hey, we're creative, like we'll push the boundaries like on a wedding day. And I know that looking back, I kind of go, man, we pushed, not even push the boundaries too much, we went after the creative and the fun stuff so much that sometimes I imagine, could I go back and shoot those weddings again, I would still keep up every ounce of creativity, but I would also go, the things I've learned in hindsight, like how important the people are, how important like all the documenting of like a wedding day is. And I suppose that probably helps move us into like the process as we have grown our own little family alongside shooting people's weddings, that in its maturity alone, like I'm glad we're not quite so young and naive anymore, but the maturity of just understanding family life, like all of our siblings getting married and being involved in so many more things and seeing so much more, we just think, gosh, people are so important on a wedding day, like the family units, the people that are involved. I think that there's just so much more, there's so much more goodness in a wedding day, the story, everything, and it's trying to like find a good balance of going, how do we still be creative and serve them really well in a nice roundabout way.
I suppose as we've matured, that has meant then that basically our mindset has matured on weddings, and we've seen so many couples who've gone through it all. Obviously we spoke about this in another episode, but just expectations and maybe taking things a bit too, not seriously, but just going overboard. And weddings are great and they're really good fun and we love them, and I love DIY weddings, but sometimes when you go too far because you're trying to make it the most epic thing you can, especially back then, like you said with blogs, blogs are still popular, they're just not as spiked popular as they used to be. Everyone wanted to be featured, everyone wanted to be on a blog for this and that, and so they wanted their weddings to become quite an event from everything from the little decorations to the hairstyles to the what the groom wears, and we were part of that hype too. I mean, I had when we got married, I had the buttonhole that was like a camera, crochet camera, and I even had a camera inside of it that actually filmed the whole thing. But as we've matured, I think those things have matured as well alongside it. So it's become a little bit more about the couple themselves rather than the spectators. Everyone else, it's not necessarily about everyone else that isn't part of the wedding day. It's just about them and their friends and their families. And that's meant that as we've gotten maturer and older, and as we've had couples email us to say, my dad's passed away, and I found those photos, and it's just so nice to see those photos of him just laughing and smiling, truly happy. No one knew, he didn't know he was getting the photo taken. He feels so comfortable. Thank you so much for that. To hear one of those sort of things means that that matters. And it matters a lot more in longevity. So we always talk about the sort of like, we can take hero shots, which are epic or fun or cute, whatever, couple shot, and they love it, and they'll probably print it and put it in their house, and then you have this sort of delayed gratification kind of shots. They're the ones that on the day you might go, they're so boring, doing a standard family shot where everyone's all lined up and everyone's just smiling. And we for a long time would have really been like, they're so rubbish. We'd agree with the couples, you're right, it's so rubbish, because we felt like, they're such a waste of time to a point. Let's get on with the creative stuff. That's how I would have thought anyway. Let's get on with the creative stuff. We'll bash these out and then get creative stuff. But now I see a value in it, because it's not necessarily the most creative, but it's my mum and my dad and my grandparents and our dog and my cousins and my nieces and my nephews, and look how tiny they are, and look how grown up they are, and everyone looks happy and smiling, and and all the other little things, all the Candids of grannies, and the way that like maybe the groom might be cuddling his niece, who's so little, who won't be like that next year. And those things to me matter a lot more than trying to find the creative Uber shot as a priority. I love creative. I love looking at golden hour stuff. I love looking at all those things. It's just the scales have moved now, and I'd much rather create something that in 10 years' time they're so glad we did it.
Yeah.
So,
what about, you touched on this before, like juggling family? So like we are business owners, but we also have a very young family. Like we still have a 9-year-old, a 6-year-old, a 3-year-old. What was the biggest impact for you moving from the realms of having no children to, okay, we had one, then a few years later a second, and then a third? So what was the biggest impact for you?
I think juggling is the word for it. I think to put it in perspective, we've got 2 kids in the car with a babysitter right now, and they need to come in soon, and we need to carry this on. Yeah. That is life, and that's what life has been for the last 9 years. It's very real. We're in our kitchen. As soon as they get in, we have to pack everything up again and carry on being parents. That is, for me, the hardest part. Not having kids, that's not, for me, that's not the hardest part. It's the balancing. We've done every which way from, okay, you have them for 2 hours while I work, and then we switch, and we've done that. Goodness. We've done like, okay, you work for a whole week, and then we switch, or you do a half day, and then I take the afternoon. And we've tested it, and there's no necessarily which way was right, because it was which was right for that time. Now they're older, the things are a little bit different. They're easier to look after. They're easier to manage because they're a bit more able. They're able-bodied. So I found the hardest parts were navigating that, because as soon as you get into the sort of the flow of work, you're kind of, it's almost like a computer booting up. And then as soon as you have to then shut down to go to parents, you only just start to reach your peak, and then boom, it's back down again. Yeah. And it crashes you down to a reality of like, oh flip, they need me. And it can take a little bit of time to anyone who's got a business and has kids and has to look after them. They know it takes an hour or two just to warm up from taking the kids to get to work. And for me, I love work and I love looking after our kids. And I'm so glad that we've always been able to do that. And they've always had us there. But that has been I've had to sacrifice the idea that I can't just get straight into work because I have to warm up and boot up. And it's weird because sometimes on a bad week or a bad month or a bad year, you sometimes think you're doing nothing very well. You feel like you're not parenting very well because you're not being 100% there at all times for them. And you don't feel like you're running a business very well because you're not 100% there at all times to work in your business and on your business. So sometimes you just feel like you've crapped up both things. And that always sits horribly with me. And that's just 2 things. You're not talking about extended family. You're not talking about church commitments. You're not talking about friends and even us, like marriage time and all those things. It's juggling like monumental things equally, and that's difficult for my brain. And I think it's probably difficult for anyone to navigate well.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that as we have every year that has gone on, that we've been parents for longer, as much as we see and feel the pain points of, gosh, it has been really hard to invest into business while growing a family, we've kind of gone, we see where we've pulled back on business to invest into the kids, and we've always, like, on our best of days, kind of like taken a breather, taken a step back from it and gone, for us personally, we are never going to look back on life and regret spending the time with our kids, like both being at home with them, both juggling, like passing the baton, like your turn to go down and sort their breakfast while I get on with this, vice versa. We're not going to regret getting to see them grow up, and like, yes, the stress of trying to work from home when your kid knows you're there. And right now we still have a 3-year-old, and she still will absolutely escape your grip from downstairs, run up just to be like, cuddle me.
And our office is in our bedroom as well, because we haven't got a spare room. So
the pain is real, but we would never change it.
No.
I think that it's only now, as we're like seeing our youngest, like in the next year or 2, is going to be in school and we're going to get back morning times. It's now that we kind of go, okay, like we've come through a huge season, and I'm so grateful, we're so grateful that like business has continued, but we can see where, okay, we have like, so social media is a big one. Like Navyblur has never been good at like staying up to date with, the trends, the thing, and like in the last few years, it has just skyrocketed in the direction that you need to go and you need to be on board with. And it's now that it's not even, I don't even like the term like, we're clawing it back, but we're just at a stage where we can go, we actually love business and we'd actually love to like pour back into it in such a way And I think it's trying to learn how to, again, let's go with balance, like balance going, we want to be in it and we want to be available. And I guess show people like, hey, like our shop front is like alive and happening again. But it's going, how do we remain authentic within that realm? And I suppose that's like, we've talked about the glory days, the oldest of days. We've talked about how it's gone. I suppose now, like, what is your biggest like hope kind of like in business in like this moment and like moving forward in these next few years?
I was starting to think, yes, I was going to think the exact same question for you. So when I think of vision, I think 10 years down the line, and then like bring it down to like 1 year and all those things. So 10 years, I'm seeing it like we've got a steady, fully booked year of weddings, but not a crazy high amount because there are other things I want to explore. We obviously don't just do photos and not just weddings. We do families, we do video. I'd love to move into more media stuff. I'd love to do podcast stuff and set that up for people. I'd love us to really look at what we've done over these 14 years of weddings and see what value and insights that we can bring to help people, because I think people don't realize where they're at until someone maybe points it out or until you really take a good look at yourself. So we've been shooting weddings 14 years. I may not think I've got a lot to give, but we've still shot a lot of weddings. So we actually do. And I'd love us to look at, I don't know, more content, more things like this, sharing helpful stuff, even writing a book or something about that, something that is more, less about top tips for weddings, just but niche. more about the mindset of weddings itself. Things that it always happens. It doesn't matter when you're getting married. This could be something that we write that in 10 years time, someone could read about, oh, that was helpful, because it's not about, top tips based on, now. We're not talking about trends. Instagram and Facebook now, because in 10 years time, they might not even exist. Yeah. It's how are you feeling now? How are you and your spouse? How are you both together? How are you going to navigate the conflicts that can come up with wedding planning? How are you going to navigate, the expectations based on parents who maybe have separated, and how you're going to navigate those relationships and all those things. I'd love to put that into some sort of written form, and I'd love to basically create more things like this. This is kind of stressful because we're having to navigate and juggle kids, but it's really fun, and I really enjoy this, and I really enjoy the expansion of this, and I would love to do this for other people as well and help other people create content to help other people out.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed seeing you over the last month or two. Just really, it's like a new new part of your brain has been unlocked, because I've always called you this this creative, your brain is wired so differently. When we've always come to business, you've been always thinking on this track that's I don't even know, it's heading towards space, the ideas that you have, and even you saying 10-year plan it's huge to me and my brain. I'm let's just focus on today. But I love that merge of the two of us. So I'm really excited just for how we're going to expand Navyblur, where we're going to go with our family, with our business. And this is just a really exciting just time to be pouring back into it, and to see where we can take Navyblur.
Yeah.